Step right up to the greatest show on earth, where reality is just a script. Join me as we dive into Barnum World, a razor-sharp mockumentary exposing the media's grand illusion. Narrator Charlie Robinson hunts down Hollywood's shadowy James Natty Jones, a puppet master spilling secrets on how our world is a staged circus. Is this satire or a chilling truth? And we're going to unpack media manipulation, psychological warfare, and the elites crafting our fake reality. Is Barnum World a wake-up call or a mirror to our complicity? So tune in and decode the spectacle with Charlie. Welcome to the circus. Charlie Robinson is a truth seeker, author, narrator known for his incisive takes on global control and societal deception. He penned The Octopus of Global Control, a provocative expose featuring over 500 experts unveiling a century-long elite plan for world domination. He then published The Controlled Demolition of the American Empire, and also the wildly crazy, funny book, Hypocrazy, surviving in a world of cultural double standards, blending humor with sharp critical cultural critique. He's been in Las Vegas real estate. He witnessed systemic fraud firsthand, later connecting the dots through John Perkins' Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And he is a USC marketing graduate. However, he rejects the industry's ethics, echoing Bill Hicks' disdain. He is also the brand new owner of Activist Post. We'll tell you a little bit about that as well. And also, of course, the host of the wildly popular Macroaggressions podcast. Charlie, it's been a while. Welcome back to Strange Planet. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It's great to see you again. You know, the first time we did this was about 7 years ago when The Octopus of Global Control came out. And I'd like to say that things have gotten a whole lot better, but they haven't. It seems like we're narrating from the apocalypse here. We're looking out at the way the world is currently structured, and it feels very artificial and dangerous, and I'm very unsure about the future. But I'll tell you, over the years, I found a way to have a laugh at the absurdity of it all, and I think maybe that keeps me going a little bit longer. It's easy to stress about all of the horrible things out there, but I tend to have a good laugh at how crazy it's all gotten, and then from there set about trying to take these things a little bit more seriously.
Yeah, you have to laugh, otherwise you cry. It's so difficult to do satire now because the moment you try and satirize something, reality sort of outdoes you.
There's parts in my books where I'll make sure I'll put a footnote in there, and I'll think to myself, I really hope the reader checks this footnote, because what I just got done saying is so crazy that I know they're going to think I just made it up. But if they'll only check the footnote, they'll see I'm just telling you what I found over here. This is the reality of the situation. It's crazy. I couldn't be this funny, even if I tried to do it. So sometimes, collecting rainwater in Oregon and talking about how people are getting arrested for doing that, it sounds like something I just made up to try and be silly, until you find the article and realize that they took people away in handcuffs for doing such a thing. So it's a tactic that I've found works pretty well when delivering bad news, is let's wrap it in a little bit of humor. And so hopefully someone will have a laugh at it, not to be dismissive of the serious natures of these things, but to allow them to process it and understand it and really take it in. I always liked The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, because he would tell you a news story, and then he'd give you, there'd be a laugh built into it at the same time, and I was getting entertained while also learning something about the world. And I sort of took that and used it in the Octopus book from time to time. There were some funny bits in there, even though the content itself is deeply serious. And Hypocrazy, it turned out to be a bit of a comedy book. In fact, I even put it in as one of my categories in the comedy section. But when you read it, it's only funny because everything is so insane. But unfortunately, when you look and realize, well, this is actually the world we have to live in, then the humor, I guess, wears off and reality sets in, and that is that we're living in a society right now that feels very upside down to me.
So let's dive into the film. Again, you're the narrator of Barnum World, and this is a mockumentary. The Hollywood figure in this that you sort of are charged with, hunting down and getting an interview with in his lair somewhere in the Arizona desert, I guess, is James Natty Jones. He's an archetype. This is not a real person, right? So why choose the mockumentary genre to tell this story?
Well, I think people let their guard down a little bit when you infuse humor into a situation. And of course, the director and I both love Best in Show and movies like that, where you blend a little bit of the truth of a document. I love documentaries, of course, and if you can find a funny documentary that is funny because maybe it's not meant to be funny, or they've made it in a way that is showing you behind the scenes and you have to laugh at how crazy it is. We thought that explaining how the system works, explaining the game, and that's what Natty Jones is. He's a part of the game. If you and I do it to a listener, it could be perceived as us lecturing them and telling, sitting them down. Let me tell you how it all works here. Have a seat, buddy. And you just unload on somebody verbally, and they don't like that. It feels like you're getting lectured, and you want to have, instead of a monologue, you want to have a dialogue. You want to get people to have a conversation with you. And so we thought that if we were going to deliver this news, maybe we could have a character who's been in the game, and it's not you and me, or it's not the director explaining how the system works. It's this guy. If you want to hate this guy, hate the guy. But the problem is, during the course of the film, he's kind of lovable. You appreciate his honesty. He has decided that he could explain it in great detail to the general public how it all works, but it won't matter really, because if you don't have the eyes to see it or the ears to hear it, it won't what he's explaining won't make any sense. And so there's a part in the movie where I ask him as the narrator and also off-camera interviewer who finally got this great interview with him. I ask him, why are you telling us all this? Isn't this going to impact the game? And he says, what difference does it make? They're not listening to me anyway. Nobody's going to listen. And that, unfortunately, is the truth, is that those of us who seek the truth in our lives and go on to write about it or produce podcasts or however we decide to get the information out. We've come to this information because we find it to be valuable. We feel like if only the public would hear this and could understand this, then maybe things would change. And if you understood that this is how the system actually works, and this is why the media is lying to you, and this is who these politicians actually are, their spells might not have the power. But what Natty Jones reminds people is that the general public is content in their ignorance. There's no appetite for digging in and trying to understand the inner workings of how the system works. They just know that they're in the system, and that things are constantly happening to them, and that the walls are constantly shifting in this maze, and they're just trying to figure it out, and they're going to their 9-to-5 job and trying to make ends meet. They don't have the perspective, and he has the perspective. And I'm always, I'm interested to get it out of him in this interview. And we talk about a variety of subjects, not just Hollywood, though he comes out of this as a Hollywood producer. There's moments in there where we talk about politics and how the system is rigged and how the media plays their role in this whole thing. And so you leave the film, laughing, of course, because it's hilarious. Also a bit frustrated because you can see the inefficiencies of our system, and they're fixable. If only there was an appetite to fix it. And but you also feel like he's right in his assessment, unfortunately, that the general public isn't ready to wake up to this. I have a great quote in my Octopus book, a Navajo proverb. It says, "You cannot wake a person who is pretending to be asleep." And I think about that from time to time when it comes to our society. And there's a lot of people out there that have a vested interest in pretending to be asleep, because to wake up to this means to re-examine their entire life, and that's a big task. And a lot of people aren't geared for that, and they've got to get the kids to school tomorrow, and they got to get up and go to work as well. And what am I going to do? Yeah, I understand all this. What am I going to do? Am I going to change the world? Am I going to change? So there's a lot of denial in this, and of course, in terms of just the film itself, I love the concept of using humor to deliver bad information. Something that's going to make you probably stay up at night. We're going to do it in a way that'll leave you laughing a little bit. And I think that allows you to process it easier. And I think that the audience, well, so far the audience's response has been fantastic. We screened it before we released it for free everywhere. We screened it in Tempe, Arizona, the last Saturday in May, in front of a live audience there, and then we did a Q&A in the aftermath of that for about an hour, and the response was overwhelming. That's the first time I've ever sat through a live movie that I had anything to do with, where I know where the jokes are, and I know where you're supposed to laugh, and do they laugh, and are they going to, how's this going to be received? Are they going to throw tomatoes at us or what? And they laughed when they were supposed to laugh, and they got it. And I was very pleased. The director and I had a very frank conversation afterwards. He said, "I thought we might be walking into a hornet's nest here with it." And I said, "No, man, you did it in a way that the people connect with." And that's a testament to Drew Treglia, the director of it. He's the director of Jones Plantation as well. He just knows this subject material inside and out, and I think that really helps too.
So Barnum World, obviously, P.T. Barnum, mid-19th century showman, Barnum and Bailey Circus and so forth. Most famous quote is, "There's a sucker born every minute." So just kind of explain, maybe connect the dots. Why reference P.T. Barnum?
So there's a concept called a Barnum statement, and that is a statement that it's not ambivalent. It's a nothing statement in it, just simply by the words that are spoken. However, it's designed to create an emotion in somebody. They say things like, "We're all in this together," or we're gonna voting. It's the most important election of our lifetime, and things like that. And you hear these terms over and over again. They do a great throughout the movie. There's a nice compilation of politicians giving interviews, and it's just one Barnum statement after the other. We've got to build back better and stand with principles, and this. And you go, okay, what does this mean? And these just sound like words. And of course, they've got the with the thumb on your fist, sort of Toastmasters neuro-linguistic programming, sort of psychological tactics that they use on people. It feels very much, especially when you see someone like Gavin Newsom, who might as well have a cane and a top hat saying, "Step right up, this is the greatest show in the West." You see guys like that and you go, "Boy, you're a huckster, aren't you? I feel like you would be selling me snake oil if this was 100 years ago." And so these concepts of how you get the crowd enthusiastic and how you get them to stop what they're doing and come over and take a listen to me, and I've got some information, and boy, this is the greatest show on earth, that if only we would all get together and focus our powers, we could make America great again, or we could insert whatever country here, So it's not specific to America. It works all over the globe. It's a personality trait. Donald Trump's a perfect example. He's a Barnum statement guy, if I've ever seen one. I mean, he stands up there and he can talk for an hour and tell you nothing. So it really kind of comes out of the circus, and it reminded me of what George Carlin said: "When you're born in this world, you get a ticket to the circus, but when you're born in America, you get a front row seat."
So who are today's, you mentioned a couple of them, who are the P.T. Barnums of today? And talk to me about the tools they wield to sustain this global circus.
Yeah. Well, in the 90s, it would have been a guy like Bill Clinton. He was very good. I mean, the common denominator is that these people are smart. They're very cunning. They're psychopathic in nature, and they're great speakers. Someone like Gavin Newsom is somebody who comes to mind when I look at the current batch of politicians. He's straight out of Central Casting with the slicked back hair and the $3,000 suits and the having dinner at French Laundry and all of the things. He's a hypocrite, highest order, which I think is essential. He has no real belief system except that he's going to take care of his group of people, he and his elites, and everybody else can fend for themselves. He certainly doesn't have a problem talking out of both sides of his mouth. And I think that's something that you need to do. And of course, there's a contrast. Not everybody is great at the Barnum statements. Kamala Harris, as an example, is terrible at it. It'd be hard for you to get inspired by her to do much of anything. But Bill Clinton was very skilled. And somebody like he could get you to believe just about anything. And that's a talent. Not everybody has it. It's a skill that's worked on. I'm sure that when he went to the UK and became a Rhodes Scholar and a agent of the British Crown, they taught him how to speak properly in front of a microphone and how to look sincere when he was talking to somebody who'd just lost their husband in a terrible accident that his administration had something to do. He had the ability to put his hand on her shoulder and look her in the face and say, we're all in this together, and we're going to stand by you. And your husband died for freedom and liberty and all those things. And you just go, what is this? This feels like words are coming out of your mouth, but I don't think that they mean the same thing to us. And for those of us who've gotten used to this over the years, it's like watching two speeches in one. You hear the words that they say, and then you translate it. You run it through your internal filter, where you realize, okay, this guy has been talking for about 3 minutes in this presentation, and he hasn't really said much of anything. And so you find all the politicians that we see in front of our in our nightly news have been put through the program. They're essentially trained liars at this point. But some are better than others, and some have that charisma where the others don't, and they can get you to believe absurdities. And that's the power of the spoken word.
So, drawing from Barnum World, just give us a little bit about the media's role, not just in entertaining, but in controlling and, let's say, confining us.
That's exactly what it is. It's confining us. It's telling us what the allowable areas for disagreement are. The media, the mainstream press is the enemy of humanity, as they have been driving the getaway car on the most important global events in our history, be it Kennedy, 9/11, COVID. Without the media's role, the narratives wouldn't be crafted the way that they are. And I think that they're losing their power. The ratings reflect that. It's tough now for CNN and MSNBC and to stay in business much longer because their lies have been exposed and their anchors have been shown to be pathological liars. But that doesn't seem to concern them as much because a pivot has been made into a new batch, which would be the mainstream alternative media, as David Icke likes to call them, which is they're not exactly the mainstream media. They're not on your nightly television show. They're doing it differently. They're in an independent capacity, or maybe they work for a network like the Daily Wire or the Blaze or somebody like that who consolidates these personalities into groups, and then they have now started to deliver the message. But again, it's the same tactic. We're never going to go outside of the lines. We're never going to have the argument and discussion about the real components of what's going on, why these wars are started, what's actually happening with our medical industry. They're going to allow you to debate whether or not you should take another COVID shot next year, but not whether or not the shot should have been pulled altogether. So we also find that one of the most obvious components of the mainstream media's narrative is their reliance on the pharmaceutical industry for about 60% of their advertising revenue. And I think that the idea that the media, to say that the mainstream media lies to us would be an understatement, of course. But one of their tactics that I think is the most effective is their lies by omission. It's not even so much what they say to us, though they tell us quite a bit, and it's often untruthful. But it's what they don't allow us to talk about, because your grandmother might have said, well, you talk about how these vaccines are so dangerous, but surely if that was the case, I would have seen an expose on the nightly news, or 60 Minutes would have done a study on it, or this or that. And since I haven't seen that, therefore it must not be real. And so they're diabolical in the sense of what they do not allow to ever be discussed on the nightly news. And so I have such disdain for the mainstream media. I find them to be the enemy of humanity, but they're there for a reason, and they serve a purpose, and they're to be the narrative managers for the empire. And they had been very good at their job up until recently, but it seems like some of the luster's wearing off, and couldn't happen fast enough as far as I'm concerned.
What did you come away with any personal insights about manufactured reality while narrating the film?
If you can capture the people on an emotional level, you can take them into a different mindset, maybe even a different wavelength of their minds. You know, the way the mind actually works. We've watched for a long, long time on the news channels of, you know, breaking news, dun dun dun. You know, the siren goes off, and the sound, the tones, the gongs, or whatever it is. And it draws you in. It's prepping you. It's telling you, here is something very important that you need to hear. And I realized that in being a part of this movie, you know, part of it, you know, half of the movie is an interview with this Natty Jones character. The other half is intercut B-roll that's bolstering what he's saying, showing examples when he talks about, you know, politicians say this and do that, and then here's 6 examples of it that show. So I got to, you know, not that I didn't already have a deep understanding of this, but when you watch it over and over again, it makes you so frustrated that you know that the mainstream media is out here intentionally lying to their audience to keep them fearful, which puts you in a very low vibrational state, makes you susceptible to fear. It makes you susceptible to all sorts of suggestions on top of that. They get you in a fight or flight state of mind, and then force you to make short-term decisions at the expense of long-term decisions. I mean, if you think that a virus is coming to wipe out humanity, even though it's 99.98% survivability rate, it doesn't matter. Throw the math out. It gets lost in the shuffle. As long as you can scare people properly, you'll get them thinking, we're all about to die. I don't care about my 401k when I retire 20 years from now. I have to focus on today, because there may not be a tomorrow. And once you can get the population or the viewing public to get themselves into a state of mind where they're making short-term decisions, then you've got them. You've got control over their behavior, and you will always have that, provided that you can consistently ramp up the fear. And I think that for people that have watched this over the last couple of years, especially, a lot of people with fresh eyes that now are seeing what they didn't see before, they take a look and they notice that the fear is everywhere. The fear for certain components are everywhere. They'll put the COVID death counter down in the lower right, but they're not going to put the death counter for people who died of heart disease. You know what I mean? That counter is not going to be there, because it doesn't serve their purpose of scaring you into a particular method of behavior. So I never had any respect for the mainstream media, but after the making of this film, I put them in a new category. Our contempt for the mainstream corporate press is not nearly enough as far as I'm concerned. There's always room to hate them a little bit more. They certainly have earned it.
James Natty Jones, again, this Hollywood mogul, fictitious character. He's an amalgam, an archetype. But is there a real Hollywood mogul that he most closely resembles? I mean, if it's just even a couple names.
I actually kind of put him. he comes out of the Hollywood world, but I put him more in the tech billionaire world if I think about it, because those guys will talk a little bit more openly about the direction that their companies are planning to take humanity. From time, you get a guy like Peter Thiel on Joe Rogan's show and let him run his mouth for 3 hours. Of course, an hour of that, I don't know if you ever saw it, but they made an hour-long compilation from Peter Thiel's 3-hour interview with Rogan, and it was just an hour of him stuttering, stammering, saying they just strung it all together. He's very bad on camera, and he's exceptionally nervous when he gets pressed on these things. So I like that every now and then you'll get these tech guys, the Alex Karps and Peter Thiels of the world, Elon Musk as well. You'll put a microphone and a camera in front of their face, and they'll forget that this is permanent. That they'll start talking about the sorts of things that maybe they shouldn't be talking about. And I got that a little bit from Natty Jones' character in this. He's a Hollywood guy, and he kind of has the Hollywood look, but he's also sort of young enough that he could fit into this billionaire boys club of the Silicon Valley elite just as well. We talk about that in the game. We talk about technology, or in the movie. We talk about the role of technology. It's not just about Hollywood and politics. And these days, Silicon Valley, Hollywood, and Washington, D.C., that Venn diagram is interlocking quite a bit. There's a lot of overlap there. And so I put him in a classification of, like, if a Hollywood mogul decided to invest a bunch of money in Silicon Valley, and now he's got assets in both camps, and he sees the world from a very an entertainment component with Hollywood, but also from the technological control side of things, the way it's ramping up in Silicon Valley.
So in Barnum World, you're sort of addressing the idea that all of these psyops are being perpetrated on the masses. Our reality is being manufactured. It's all according to a script, right? It's the Matrix. But one of the big takeaways for me, and something I hadn't really thought about, is the success of these psyops is really is based on the psychological component, that we are pack animals. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, if you've ever gone away from the herd in your line of thinking, you'll find that the herd needs you to be a part of it again. And this, I think, this gets into some evolutionary DNA in us. You can look at it as an animal, a group of animals. If you've got somebody who strays away from the group, that person opens up the herd to the potential for attacks, because you see that animal has gone off and has drawn interest of some of the other predators, and if it leads back to that animal, it could lead back to the herd, and they see that as dangerous. They also love the idea of groupthink. It keeps everybody sort of on the same page, and if you break away from that, I think this was exemplified in Plato's allegory of the cave. The prisoner who crawls out of the cave and up to the top and finds out what's really going on comes back to warn the other prisoners in the cave about what he's seen and to set their mind at ease. Look, I've got good news for you. It's not like this. We don't have to be scared of the things that we're scared of. And their response to him was that they didn't appreciate that. They didn't appreciate you coming in there and telling them about this. They have their own worldview. It's fine for them. And you are now introducing chaos and confusion into their lives, and they would just appreciate you get out and leave the cave forever. So there's some hardwiring into us as people, as humans, that we tend to click up with those that are like us in terms of protection. And when somebody leaves, we can interpret it a couple ways. One is to be insulted that they would leave us. How dare you? What could you possibly be seeking outside of our group? And also, they view that entity that left as a potential threat to the rest of the herd. You open it. You make us weaker. your leaving the herd makes us one person weaker here, and so we have to take that into consideration. And you don't get the sort of hero's welcome when you come home that you might fantasize that you would get when you come back with this information. Hey, I've got great news for you. I'm going to explain to you how this all works, and you're going to be so thrilled that I went off on my own and gathered this information, and it'll help you. And what I have found, and I found this in my own life, is that it doesn't matter sometimes. I had a situation in the middle of 2020, but at the beginning of the COVID era. I had a very frank conversation with a group of my friends who I've known my entire life, and I told them in advance, I don't want to turn this into a lecture, guys, but in the next couple of months, you're going to get a massive push for a vaccine campaign that hasn't started yet, but it's going to, and it's going to be overwhelming, and you're going to get it from every angle, and you're going to be guilted into it and forced into it, and you name it. And I said, I need you guys to just promise me one thing. Before you make any decisions on taking this experimental rush to market gene therapy that will be unfoiled on you, please call me. Just give me 5 minutes. That's all I need. I need 5 minutes. I didn't get a single call. Not one. And these are people I've known my entire life. I love them. They love me. They have no reason to not trust me. I'm not trying to sell them something. I'm not trying to make them feel stupid. I'm trying to give them information that I think will be helpful. I have some information that you're going to need to know because it's going to be different than what you're going to get, and it might save your life. And it wasn't enough. And so I learned some valuable lessons about that, just from my own personal experiences. And I would think, boy, if I can't even connect with my best friends on this, then what am I doing? Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I shouldn't be doing it at all. And yet here I go, getting emails from strangers who listen to Macroaggressions saying, thank you so much for talking about this when it was dangerous. And thanks for, it's easy to parachute in and be Tucker Carlson in 2025. But, actually, I think we should maybe take a look at these vaccines again. It's like, well, where were you in 2021? When it mattered the most. So it's one thing to have the voice to talk about this, but it's another thing, it's when were you doing it? And so I learned that sometimes when you're early, you look crazy, and even your own friends may not listen to you. But I also understand that this is a process, and that everybody wakes up, if they wake up at all, at their own pace. And that maybe for my friends, they weren't ready to have that information in 2020. But maybe they are now. Maybe they've seen some things, and so it was a reminder to me to keep talking and to be persistent with this, but also be ready for disappointments too, because sometimes even the people that you think would listen to you the most carefully have actually turned their backs on you. And it's frustrating when that happens, but I think it's a lesson that all of us in the truth community have gone through at some point in our careers.
The film, again, it's Barnum World. Also, the message that comes across to me in this is that we can't. I think James Natty Jones says it. You can't change anything through the ballot box. But I'm wondering, is there a risk of just blackpilling everybody? I mean, it does. Everything does feel like it's fake, and everyone is a fake and a fraud, and nothing is real. And so, why bother? Is there a risk of blackpilling everyone here?
Of course, there's a huge risk of blackpilling people. In fact, the man who plays the character Natty Jones in real life, those on people on X might recognize him as Legal Man. He goes by the name Legal Man. His real name is Lee Gallman, but when you put it together, it's Legal Man, and he also happens to be a lawyer. And we've asked him, would you consider yourself to be black-pilled at this point? And he says, no, I'm cyanide-pilled at this point. So he really embraces somebody who has been black-pilled. I don't feel that way. I feel like there is hope for us. I think that when you're dealing with a situation, be it the government that you live under or an addiction that you have, the first step is to admit you have a problem. And until we get the vast majority of the American people to admit that we have a problem, nothing will get changed. And so there's part of me that connects with his frustration with the general public, and I get that. But if the goal or if how you quantify success is that we've got to get everybody to believe us, you'll always be disappointed. I think that the real measure should be, can you impact the people around you? And as I just said, I mean, I had a hard time impacting my best friends with it. That component of it made me feel a little bit black-pilled, to be honest with you. But can you reach those in your circle? Can you explain what you see to them? Are they able to break out of this spell? Some people are, and some people aren't. So I think that you've got to change what your definition of success is when you go into something like this. Waking up the world is off the table. That's not going to happen. But can you get a critical mass of people to start asking questions, or at least acknowledge how preposterous things have gotten, and especially with regard to the ballot box? I mean, this goes back to their first movie, Jones Plantation, where they set up on the plantation, they free all of the slaves, but then scare them into staying by saying, well, listen, you can leave the plantation, but you'll just get captured by somebody else. At least here, what we'll do is we'll let you vote for who you want to be in charge. And they set up an election between Mr. Jones and another guy, and who, heads they win, tails they lose. I mean, it doesn't matter. They've rigged the system, and in conjunction with rigging it through a sham election, they also created the concept of Jones Plantation credits in that film. It was fake fiat money, and that plays, I think, into the reality that we have now. We have fake elections paid for with fake money, and I think that you can change the world, but if you think you can change it at the ballot box, I think you're just playing into their game. They control both sides of both candidates and both political parties. So it feels a bit like theater, and I sort of described this recent election with Trump versus Kamala as a choose your own adventure book. You're still going to be a bad outcome, but you can pick which. If I chose Kamala and she became the president, then it would be more wokeism and more genders and all of that nonsense. So with Trump in office, that goes away. Congratulations, that goes away. But it doesn't mean that you're out of the heat. You just look at what he's brought. Well, he's bringing technocracy. How's that feeling? Well, not very good. I'm not. My mind is not set at ease with the introduction of Sam Altman's and Larry Ellison's and Peter Thiel's and Alex Karp's. So I get. I'm fearful either way, but the ballot system, the voting system, has been fantastic for the empire for a long, long time. They have created the perception that people have a say in this, and I just really don't think that they do. Not at the ballot box, at least. I mean, you can vote with your intentions and with your dollars, and you can remove them from certain things that you don't like to see. But in terms of changing the entire structure of the system, it's designed that no matter which team you vote for, you're still going to get outcomes that are not beneficial to humanity. So, unfortunately, in the voting component of this, I feel very much black-pilled. I just don't know that there's a solution at the ballot box. But I will say this, that you don't need one if you get enough people that break away from this system and start to do things their own way. There's this misconception that we need 51% of the people to change the culture in a society, but that's really not true. I think the statistics show that it's a single-digit number.
Yeah. Well, I was going to use the example. I was going to use the example of the American Revolution, but you could say, well, that was all scripted too, I suppose. And that the founding fathers, and the film addresses that. But to that point, you don't need critical mass. I think it was how many people participated in the American Revolution? 10%, maybe less.
Yep, a lot. It was very small. I mean, it's made to feel as though everybody was out in the streets, but the reality is that that's not the case, and it's always that way. It's always a very small percentage. It's made to feel as if it's everybody, and if you can get the general public to think that, well, everybody feels this way, then what we've found, I mean, you can take a look at the psychological studies that have done with people that walk into an elevator, and everybody who's in the elevator already is facing the opposite direction than they normally face, and guy gets in, and then next thing you know, he turns around, he's facing the opposite direction too. People will feed off of. We've got Stanford prison experiments. We've got Milgram experiments. We've got a lot of case studies that show that the human beings can be very herd-like in their behavior, and especially when they think that they're going to be left out in the cold and on their own. That's a very uncomfortable position for some people to be in. I feel comfortable in that position for the most part, but I know that most people do not. And having your belief system validated by everybody around you is a good feeling. And I've had people say to me, well, it's very convenient. You know, you don't like the Republicans, so you bash them. I said, well, I don't like the Democrats either. I bash them as well. I'm on an island where everybody I encounter doesn't like me. You know what I mean? I'm comfortable in that, in my role of not loving the red team or the blue team, but I realize that most people are not comfortable in that, and that they seek a group, and that they seek that consensus to validate their opinions and their thoughts. Even if their opinions are wrong, as long as everybody around them believes the same thing, they're safe and they're protected. And that, of course, is a diabolical way to run a government, but that's what we've been witnessing here for a very long time.
Well, the problem, as I see it, is the moment when you have a movement, and I don't know if that's what we're calling this. In other words, quitting the game or opting out and forming a smaller community. Some might call it the anarchist movement or whatever you want to call it. The moment you do that, those inside the game see what's happening and they decide we better co-opt and infiltrate, and then they take that, and then that becomes another game. How do you escape? Truly escape.
It is very tough. I've heard it explained to me this way, and I think that there might be some truth to this. If you just wander away from the herd, the system will allow you to, for the most part. Every now and then, one person kind of figures it out and they drift off. The system isn't going to put up too much of a fight for that. But if you are somebody who has woken up to this and you are actively trying to draw people away from the herd to get them to wake up to it, that's when you get a target put on you. And so if you're just coming to this idea, the concept of anarchism, anarchy doesn't mean no rules. It means no rulers. And given the batch of rulers we've had, I think, case can be made that we're better off without them. And I've been going to Anarchapulco, the largest anarchist conference in the world, in Acapulco, Mexico, on 5 different occasions. I'm now the MC of the event and have been for the last 2 years there. And I get a chance to meet all of these dirty, bomb-throwing anarchists. I keep waiting. Where's the Molotov cocktail throwing workshop? Where is the tire burning event? I keep waiting to find it. I never see it. Instead, what I see big tour buses pulling up, loading the participants from the event into it and going to the nature preserve to let baby sea turtles out into the ocean at night. So that's the sort of anarchism that I get. What I see is a lot of people building outside of the system. They're not trying to fix the system. They recognize the system is broken. The system was built I shouldn't say the system is broken. Let me rephrase that. The system is working exactly as it was designed. Unfortunately, the design of the system is broken, at least in terms of benefiting we the people. So they see that, they see the school system, and instead of saying, I'll run for office and I'll fix the school system, they say, no, we're not doing that. I'm going to build outside of the system the ultimate homeschooling curriculum. And then I'll worry about me and my friends and my family, and then as people start to come to us, they'll recognize that what I'm offering is better than the current public school, government school system, and therefore I will win not by going in and fixing the system that is never meant to be fixed anyway. We win by building outside of the system, a better mousetrap, and then letting that, do its thing. And so one of the concepts that I've come across after many years of being in the anarchists sort of at their conferences and in that world is that I found that the people there are extremely smart and very motivated, and they've had it with the government, but they're not trying to change the system or fix the system. They're looking to just build something else. And given the current paradigm that we're living in, I connect with the something else. It's not always better, but it's usually more authentic, and the people involved in it are extremely smart. and they want what's best for each other and for their families. And I just don't get that feeling from any sort of government institution. I feel that they are designed to keep us in a prison, maybe even an actual prison, but definitely a prison of our mind. And to break away from that is to free yourself from this mental slavery that we've been born into by no fault of our own.
Barnum World, how do we watch?
Watch, well, you can go to YouTube and search Barnum World. It's under a channel called Drew Media. That's Drew Treglia, the director, his channel. You can find it on Rumble. It's going to be everywhere. They're going to put it out on Amazon Prime and all the direct-to-consumer platforms that they can put it on, and it's free. It's available for free. No excuses. Go out there and check it out. Give it 10 minutes. You'll love it. You'll see what we're talking about. This Natty Jones character. He's you want to hate him, but boy, you just appreciate his honesty in a time of rampant dishonesty. He's a bright light in a darkness of Hollywood.
And if you want to learn how to opt out of technocracy, you can read a great article at Activist Post, and you are the brand new editor of Activist Post. Give us the elevator pitch. What's the Activist Post all about, and how do we access it?
Activist Post has been in publication for the last 15 years. I am the new owner. I am the new editor, but I came to this because I was a reader of Activist Post for the last 10 years. It's articles by independent journalists. We're republishing them in a variety of 8 different categories, including solutions. Most important category, solutions. We're really good at complaining about the things out there, but if you don't give people an off-ramp or give them some actionable information, then I think you're just complaining and not providing any sort of areas for people to improve themselves. And Activist Post is fantastic. Articles every day, putting out 10 articles a day. We've got a podcast section as well. I do fully recognize that not everybody gets their information the same way. If you want to listen to something, listen to a podcast or watch a video, we've got that as well. It works really well on mobile, but we didn't build an app for it. I did not want to centralize control into the hands of the Google or Apple Play app stores, because I saw what happened with Zero Hedge. So if you're somebody that wants to get your news on mobile, pull up a browser, go to activistpost.com, bookmark it, check it out. It's outstanding work by serious journalists around the world who are obviously not welcome at the mainstream media, but they're welcome at Activist Post, and they're not going to get edited or censored, because the only person that would be doing that would be me. And that's just certainly not going to happen. So I encourage people to check it out. Add it to your daily media diet. Just bookmark it and check it out and see what you think. And if you find articles there that you like, then you, the reader, you get to play a role in this as well. Share it with your friends. Put it on social media. Send it to somebody who you think you might be able to wake up, if there's someone in your life. It's the best way that we can get this information. It's not you lecturing them. It's somebody else. It's an article from somebody else. And hey, what do you make of this? Take a look. Read this article. This article caught my attention. I thought it might be something you might be interested in. So however you can do it to reach out to people in your orbit that you think you might be able to wake up to this insanity, I certainly encourage you to do that.
Activistpost.com, and then we have Macroaggressions, your podcast. What's it about? How do we listen?
Macroaggressions is an audio podcast that I started in, March of 2020. We're episode 550 and counting. It goes out twice a week. Wednesdays, it's a monologue episode. Sundays is an interview. You can find it wherever podcasts are served in audio format and video format, Rumble, Odyssey, Vigilante TV. It's available there. If you want to connect with me, macroaggressions.io is the website, and that has information about the books, about the podcasts, about the news platforms. So it's all there, and we're coming up on 10 million downloads for Macroaggressions, which is blowing my mind. I am convinced. I was talking to myself for the first 50 episodes, probably was, and now from time to time I run into people who don't know what I look like, but recognize my voice, which is a funny way to get noticed by others, but I'll take it. So Macroaggressions has been fantastic. I think that I think that people have connected with that because we cover a variety of topics, and I encourage people to just check it out, see what you think. Listen to the intro. You'll know. The intro is about 1.5 minutes. After that chaotic intro, you'll know whether or not you're interested in my flavor of insanity or not.
Activist post, Macroaggressions, and of course, narration on the brand new film called Barnum World. Check it out on YouTube. Charlie, great connecting with you again. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me back, Richard.
A new Richard Syrett's Strange Planet drops every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.